I don't know where you stand on Thursday night footy. I am a fan as someone that lives in Gippsland, Victoria. I am not going to be able to go to many games anyway. So knowing that I'll just be able to watch it on the TV on a Thursday night works for me personally. I can totally understand if you don't like Thursday night footy, but whoever is arranging these games needs to be sacked at this point because this is awful. All four of them have had over 2.5 quarters of just blech footy at this point. Now, we might have worse games than this. Hey, we could have had one or two of them last weekend. But have we learned less out of a game of footy? I don't think so. And we're going to talk about the where, the when, and the why that happened. Now, we know that the story is going to be the Blues throughout mainstream footy media. As I like to do with these reviews, let's talk about the winners first, the Pies. Again, we're going to individualise here from both a zone point of view and a player point of view, of course. But the Pies, they were cleaner for longer, especially in that third quarter where they broke the game apart. The first half was just yuck, but as the conditions seemed to get worse, the cleaner the Pies became, and having the level of experience that they have on their list became evident as the night went on. I want to shout out the older boys. Scott Pendlebury, at his age, with his experience, is amazing. I think at this point it is just digging the boots into the Brent Harvey decision. North Melbourne getting that wrong in a massive way, and this is just rubbing salt into the wound. Even though North Melbourne fans have got plenty to be optimistic about, I could totally still understand them being really pissed off at the way that ended. The era and the age of veterans is here. Enjoy them while you can, and as best you can, for as long as they keep producing. Now, I listened to the Rush Hour where Scott Pendlebury called Steele Sidebottom the most underrated player that he's played with, and I really do get why, considering that it is Pendlebury and Sidebottom who broke the teammates record. It's Pendlebury and Sidebottom who are the only living two-time premiership players at this point in time. But it is Pendlebury who's played the most games, and Sidebottom who's second on the list. Like, he kind of is the forgotten guy because he's been pretty much a part of the entire Scott Pendlebury era, which is unfortunate if he cares about individualistic honours, I should say. I have no idea if he does or not. I haven't met Steele. And for a guy who kicked 10 in the TAC Cup Grand Final, as it was known then, for him to be known for more than that is actually more extraordinary than you think, especially with how modern draftees and those under-18 games are still remembered. Hayden Young, throughout his young career, ironically, is still remembered for that kick on the halfback flank at Marvel in that under-18s grand final. Could be the best individual field kick I've ever seen. And it's in an under-18s game. It's simply awesome, that delivery. So, yeah, a massive shout out to those two guys. Carlton have effectively only got one player that is even worthy of being spoken around in the A-grade discussion for just their performances this year, which is, of course, Tom De Koning. Darcy Cameron beat him on the day. Now, I'm not suggesting that this means that TDK is overrated or not worth the contract that supposedly St. Kilda are offering him. I'm not saying that in the slightest. Everyone gets beaten on their day. Look at how good Lloyd Meek was against the Giants. Tom De Koning got him. So, yes, you're allowed to have a lesser day. I think the player that made you have a lesser day should still get credit for that. So, Darcy, massive tick for you, my friend. In an era in where Nick Dacos is the best thing since sliced bread, Josh still exists. Like, he just does, guys. He is not the icing on the cake. He is not the parsley on your meal. He is a definitive star. Going back to halfback, which I had my doubts over, to be honest, given his all-Australian caliber play on a wing, but it's working out really nicely and was one of the key differences in the game, and we'll talk about that in the Carlton section. In terms of who replaced Josh on a wing, though, another shout out to Pat Lipinski, who is having a really good stretch of form here by the Pinsk, who to this day is still one of the friendliest and best looking footballers I've ever seen in my life. And I say that unashamedly. He is unbelievable to look at. He's one of those guys that makes you wonder what kind of shitty day God had when he put this together, when he's capable of creating that. Piss off, God, which you could quote me on that, apparently. And some of the key numbers the Pies dominated as we probably expected that they would, to be perfectly honest, but Look, if you tipped Carlton in this game, I can totally understand your train of thought being they have to fix it at some point. And again, it is a credit to the Pies that they were able to do that. I am loving the form of Darcy Moore at the moment. Lachie Schultz played one of the better games that he's had at the Pies and is fulfilling that potential, which is more than handy at this point. Collingwood having another forward threat is fantastic. And Brodie Myercheck presented well all night, could have capitalised a little bit better, but when you kick 8 goals 15 and your opponent kicks 6 goals 13, I think it was off the top of my head, it's going to be a tough conversion night for a lot of players. Brodie Myercheck's won Collingwood's goal kicking 5 times. Now, I genuinely don't think I've underrated Brodie Myercheck. I'm a massive fan. That's bloody incredible, to be honest. So, overall, the Pies, very good, got the job done. Did they play their best? No. Did they have to? No. But their pressure was good. They were cleaner for longer. And for as quickly as possible, because I barely have anything new to add, let's talk about Carlton, I suppose, who once again, in the second half, went to water. They are negative 118 now. Up until three-quarter time, they were negative 118 in second halves. Like, what are we doing here? And every possible theory you can come up with is a coaching problem. Now, one of them is not necessarily a Michael Voss problem, because if they just aren't fit, then you're looking at the new staff that they've got, the fitness staff that replaced Andrew Russell, which is still a coaching issue. It's fitness coaching, but that would need to be addressed. Is it game style? Because they're still playing a highly contested game. They have no spread from stoppage. They have no ball movement at all. Ollie Hollands kicked like 30% of Carlton's score and did not play well, which is extraordinary considering he kicked 2 goals. I understand that. But he was so poor. Nick Haynes' footy IQ is just, I think, frustrating nearly everyone that's watching, which is a real shame. It was so unfortunate that Lachie Cowan got injured. Adam Sard is fine, but he's no longer your number one rebounder. They miss Nick Newman terribly. Forward line mix is awful. The delivery inside 50 is awful. Blake Acres was solid on a wing. Don't get me wrong, and Jack Silvani down back showed why I think he's in career best form, spoiling my Carlton video. But this story around Carlton actually hasn't changed. It's going to get louder, so it's going to amplify, we know that. But in terms of what's different, it's nothing. They're still shit. They can't move the ball, they can't defend turnover, and you can't really convince me that if the game was drier, then this would have been a blowout. Look, is a 15-point loss the worst thing in the world? Or a 17-point loss, I should say, the worst thing in the world? Now, is a sub-3-goal loss the worst thing in the world? Like, not really, but for 3 quarters, you were borderline uncompetitive. And it just so happened that for a quarter and a half, your opponents were. They haven't left Victoria yet. I want to repeat that. They haven't left Victoria yet. Now, could you convince me that that's a good thing? Sure, Bond, get out there, escape the bubble. Fine, but you got to be a good team to recover from this. And Daz, your Hawks did it, Brisbane did it. Yeah, I know that. I know. So I'm not saying they're gone. I'm just saying I don't care about them. And that sucks. And the reason it sucks is because good people barrack for Carlton. Not every good person, obviously. But not every supporter of the team you hate, if you do hate Carlton, and I do not. But even if you do barrack for Collingwood, Essendon, Richmond, the traditional rivals of the Blues, yeah, you don't want the Blues to win. You don't want the Blues to beat your team. I don't want any team to beat your team. Or my team, I should say. So that makes sense, of course. But to acknowledge that on an individualistic standpoint, every fan of a particular team is a terrible human being is an archaic way of thinking. And I just think of it as like the little bloke, my stepson, his dad barracks for the Blues. He's probably feeling shit about this, right? Pommy from Pommy and Oz, which if you want to watch the biased reaction, go and watch his after this or when it comes out, probably tomorrow, I think, off the top of my head. I could be wrong, but just go subscribe to Pommy and subscribe to me and just keep an eye out for when that drops. That works beautifully. He's a great man, and Carlton stink, and that sucks for him. And there are plenty more out there. If any of my high school mates are watching going, Daz, did you forget I'm a Carlton fan? Well, you're a superstar as well, and this stinks. Like, it does. I know it's fun to hang on, but at some point, it just feels almost bullyish. And for me, that's not as fun as it used to be when I was a teenager, to be honest. I'm not saying Carlton need to become a powerhouse, of course, but when it's prime time, start of the week, 3 out of 4 Thursday games, and they're averaging 57 points. It's not fun. It's not great. It kind of stinks a little bit, but if you are enjoying Carlton being 0-4, I guess you're going to enjoy that, of course. And a massive congratulations to the Pies, who have recovered beautifully after the GWS take down. Look, am I of the highest energy? Not really. Starting to get the man flu, which sucks, but hang with me for the rest of the weekend. Fingers crossed the footy gets better. Fingers crossed your weekend gets or already is starting off in an awesome way. Like the video if you could. Subscribe to join the Daz Talks Footy cohort, the family. It's growing, it's expanding, it's doing beautiful things, as are you. Have a good one. Look after yourselves because the world's better when you're in it and when you're thriving. See you later.